No matter what pressure is put on Pakistan, the China-Pakistan relationship is not going to change. That's what Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan told me in a recent interview. He also said he found the trend by some countries to pressure others to take sides deeply worrying for the world, quote-unquote, especially for countries such as Pakistan. What has made this 7-decade-long friendship between China and Pakistan stronger than ever? How to deepen those ties despite pressure from outside? Welcome to a special edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin. I'm pleased to be joined in Beijing by Professor Su Hao from the Center for Strategic and Peace Studies at China Foreign Affairs University and by Zoon Ahmed Khan, a Pakistani researcher at Tsinghua University, a prestigious university in Beijing. Welcome to the two of you to this program. First, let's take a listen to what His Excellency Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan told me about the Communist Party of China's achievements over the past century. The CPC celebrated its centenary on July the 1st.
I especially want to take this occasion to congratulate China and the Communist Party. I think on its 100th, it is the anniversary of the CPC. Also, in Pakistan, we admire President Xi Jinping as one of the great statesmen of the modern world. We have admiration for him in Pakistan for two particular reasons. One, his commitment to fight corruption. The commitment that a society there must be rule of law in a society. In other words, the powerful must be brought under the law. And corruption is, when it destroys a country, it is when there is a corrupt elite which does not bring itself under the rule of law, and they are the ones who do the maximum damage. So I have watched the corruption drive, anti-corruption drive of President Xi Jinping, and we here in Pakistan are very impressed by the way he has so many high-level officials, ministerial-level people have been held accountable for their corruption. Secondly, and the most remarkable thing about China, which we all admire, is that the way they have brought so many millions of people out of poverty. The figure we are told is almost 700 million people have been brought out of poverty in the last 6-7 years. And recently, China announced that China has finally eliminated extreme poverty. So this is, I think, one of the most remarkable achievements of any human society. I don't think there is any precedent in history of a society achieving these great goals.
So Prime Minister Imran Khan praised the CPC's efforts on fighting corruption and extreme poverty. Zoon, let me go to you first. What do you think of his comments? What do the CPC's achievements mean for Pakistan?
So firstly, thank you, Liu Xin, for having me. And I think it's important to recognize that when we talk about a government, a system or governance for the people, there are two very important aspects to it. Number one, like he mentioned, corruption, fighting against corruption. We're talking about a system that treats people, normal people, equally. Justice is something that they can foresee in the system and they can expect by the system. And the second aspect is prioritizing the improvement, basic improvement of the quality of lives of people. And I think there is absolutely no doubt that in both of these aspects, China has done remarkably well. Now let's talk about the sentiment on the ground. Well, for Pakistani people, China is Batiye's iron brother, is a country that they feel immensely close to, and this is a friendship that obviously diplomatically 70 years, we are celebrating 70 years of diplomatic relations today, but we are also talking about generations of people truly caring for each other, and this is a sentiment experienced even now. So when Pakistani people see China emerging as the second largest economy in the world, pursuing projects like the Belt and Road Initiative, fighting against COVID the way they did, and playing a positive role in terms of global governance and setting an example for other developing countries after they created their own system suitable to their own needs. It's something that Pakistanis are truly proud of. And in Pakistan, we obviously have a multi-party democracy. The PTI itself came on the mandate of socio-economic development and anti-corruption. But otherwise as well, throughout the country, there is a strong consensus to support CPEC, to enhance cooperation with China and to continue this learning. So I think he truly, he talked about some of the most important things when it comes to what do we learn from China, and there's obviously much more to it.
I also took the opportunity to ask His Excellency Prime Minister Han about his opinions on the 70 years of China-Pakistan diplomatic ties. Let's take a listen.
For Pakistan, there was always a very special relationship with China, although our relationship started 70 years ago. But, you know, China, whenever Pakistan was in trouble, whenever I'm in trouble politically, internationally, when we had conflicts with our neighbor, China always stood with us. So the people of China have a special place in the hearts of people of Pakistan. Because everyone here remembers, you know, you only remember a friend who stands with you in your difficult times. In good times, everyone stands with you. But in your difficult, tough times, bad times, you remember those people who stood by you. That's why you will find that in Pakistan, people always have a special fondness for people of China. So this relationship has only got stronger. Even now, politically, you know, on the international forums, Pakistan and China always stand together. And now, when you talk about the region, there's this strange great power rivalry taking place. You know, you see the United States and the United States being wary of China, and you know, I don't need to say all this is now public knowledge. You know, the way China and the United States are sort of looking at each other. So it creates problem, because what United States is doing is it's formed this regional alliance called the Quad, which is US, India, and then, you know, a couple of other countries. So from that point of view, Pakistan thinks that it is very unfair for the US or other powers, Western powers, for countries like us to take sides. Why do we have to take sides? We should have good relationship with everyone. And, you know, it's not going to happen that if there's pressure put on Pakistan to change its relationship or downgrade its relationship with China, it won't happen. Yeah. Because the relationship between Pakistan and China is very deep. And it's not just the governments, it's a people-to-people relationship. So to sum up, whatever will happen, our relationship between the two countries, no matter what pressure is put on us, is not going to change.
Well, how do you deepen these already very strong ties, Your Excellency?
Number one is trade. You know, the CPEC is it's right in front of you. It's something. It's the biggest thing happening in Pakistan. For us, this is where we think our economic future is moving towards. So this is a big economic feature in Pakistan. Mm-hmm. And then there's the political relationship. And political relationship has got stronger. And it's got stronger because whatever happens in every international forum, Pakistan and China stand together.
Let me go to Professor Su for your comments. How do the Chinese political circle and the general public look at relationship with Pakistan? Do they feel strongly and positively as much as they Pakistani counterparts do?
Of course. As we know that well, two countries have already their 70 years histories of our diplomatic relation with each other. In all of this time, there's almost no problems between us. In particular, in the Cold War period, China and Pakistan have the mutual assistance with each other. In particular, China gets great assistance from Pakistan regarding the rapprochement between China and the United States. And of course, in South Asia's relations, China gives assistance towards Pakistan so that it makes Pakistan survive in the war with India. So that means in the past, China and Pakistan have the mutual strategic assistance with each other. And after the end of the Cold War, China and Pakistan even more mutual assistance with each other regarding like the mutual, development and regional cooperation in Asia, and also the anti-terrorist issue. And in particular at the moment, the Belt and Road Initiative. So many fields for us also share the common ground and give the mutual assistance with each other, so that make our two countries have a very solid foundation for our friendship and cooperative relation with each other. So not only is our governmental level, we have a very tight relation with each other. So as the all levels within the government, like the prime minister, like the president, like the minister or DG level, for have the mechanical interaction with each other, but also between our two peoples with each other. So we have a very deep mutual understanding and mutual respect with each other regarding our culture, regarding our societal interaction, and regarding our business to business relation and trade relation with each other. So we have full scale of deep interaction and good relation with each other between our two countries.
Yeah. Well, to my surprise, actually, this video clip went viral on the international social media platform. I got overnight, I think in 2 nights' time, thousands, almost 3,000 followers from Pakistan. And that particular video was viewed more than 160,000 times and got over 10,000 likes on my Twitter account. And Mr. Khan was so generous to share this video clip on his Facebook account and Instagram account. And many Pakistani media also reported this interview on newspaper, especially his remarks about the China-Pakistani ties never going to downgrade under pressure. So, Zoon, how do you look at the overwhelming support that this particular video has generated among the Pakistani people, and why do you think the Prime Minister needed to reiterate this point, which to some people seemed just to be obvious?
Okay, so first of all, I think the support, the affection that Chinese people and China have from Pakistan, just as Professor Su also mentioned, it goes back generations. And when we look at what happened in 2015, when the projects, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor projects mutually determined by the NDRC of China and the Planning and Development Commission of Pakistan were announced, that is also specifically what Prime Minister Imran Khan is referring to. In some cases, Pakistan was facing unfortunate global isolation at that time, and China was the one country that came in, stepped up and decided to help to facilitate what Pakistan needed most. We were in a vicious cycle. Our economy was not doing well. We needed infrastructure development, and Western donors and countries were not coming to our support. So this is just one example. And there are countless such examples in recent decades between China and Pakistan of this unconditional support. So coming to the point of why he needed to state what seems the obvious, well, we know that currently the Biden administration is putting pressure on various countries to pick sides. And what Prime Minister Imran Khan says is something we all need to respect, that countries, regardless of how rich or poor they are, regardless of whether they're in the global north or south, there shouldn't be this concept of polarization or picking sides. All countries must have the right and must be respected enough to pursue their pragmatic interests. And I think this is why Prime Minister Imran Khan, because we do have very practical cooperation with the United States on one hand, and obviously the cooperation with China, there's absolutely no doubt, is very holistic, very timely and very necessary for Pakistan's development goals. But that said, why do we need to state it? Because this is something that needs to be said with confidence, that Pakistan and any other countries in the world have the right to not choose sides. And the reason that China also gets immense respect from Pakistani people, on top of everything else, is that China does not ask countries to pick sides. China has not put any conditions on Pakistan to improve or deteriorate its relations with etc. and etc. It's something that's Pakistan's own prerogative. On the other hand, Washington seems to be pursuing quite a different policy globally. So I think these factors definitely play into why Pakistanis in general have even more immense support for China, and it's something deeply rooted. I've experienced these 6 years since the announcement of the project, since they have been practically playing out on the ground, and people in a more tangible way feel the friendship of China than before, increasingly. And obviously trade eventually is another way forward. So China is investing in very important dimensions of Pakistan's development.
Let's talk a little bit about the CPAC, because you mentioned that, and the Prime Minister also mentioned the CPAC being the biggest thing that's happening in Pakistan. According to the Chinese embassy in Pakistan, a total of 46 CPAC projects are under construction or have been completed, and the corridor has brought $25.4 billion in foreign direct investment to Pakistan and created 75,000 jobs for the locals. But if you look at some media reports, it seems China is trying to control Pakistan with these projects, or is setting up, you know, the old cliche of the so-called debt trap. So, Professor Su, why do you think this project has been perceived this way by some media? What's driving such sentiments?
Well, actually, China and Pakistan has a very good cooperation achievement regarding the CPAC cooperation. You know, so far we have from China's side, we have more than 70 projects invested into Pakistan, and by this way, make the Pakistanis get benefits by this kind of investment from China, and their cooperation in the industrial fields, industrialized, cooperation, and industrial parks, interaction with each other, and also the infrastructure building. So that by this way, Pakistan gets quite a lot of benefit from Chinese investment. But unfortunately, so far from the Western media, because based upon their traditional remarks, like they have some kind of their hackneyed and stereotypes, their expression in the past, they all criticize Chinese achievement in developing world, like in Africa, like in Latin America, and now they're also talking something like in Pakistan, so-called the debt trap. But it is obvious that so far, the things goes quite well. There's no problem between China investing in Pakistan. So Pakistani no kind of their trap to be thrown in by means of Chinese investment. So I would say that this is the Western society's jealous toward Chinese achievement, in Pakistan in the Belt Road Initiative. So I think that this kind of their outdate of their expression. Actually, Western media also get some kind of memory of their own traditional behavior towards their colonial areas or even developing world. So that's their own faults, not Chinese problem.
Okay.
But I think so far, China, we should, of course, take cautious about that. So we also try to improve our image in the developing world and in the world media.
Okay, we're going to take a very quick break and we'll be back with more. Stay with us on this special edition of The Point, coming to you from Beijing. Stay with me. Making sense of the overwhelming wave of information means cutting through the noise to shine a light on the heart of the story and making room for new perspectives. True understanding means the ability to see events from more than one side. I'm Liu Xin, and this is The Point. Welcome back. My guests have been Zoon Ahmed Khan, a Pakistani researcher at Tsinghua University, and Professor Su Hao from the Center for Strategic and Peace Studies at China Foreign Affairs University. Zoon, let me go to you. Just now I mentioned some of the numbers involved in CPAC, and you mentioned this project quite a few times. So help us understand exactly what concrete changes, what concrete benefits have the CPAC projects brought to the local people.
So I think, first of all, it's important to recognize that these projects in 2015 were in some ways, even desperate requirement of Pakistan. They were focused on energy and transportation infrastructure, the port of Gwadar as well, very significant, special economic zones. And these are all very basic requirements of a country to be able to build its economy. That said, now the number quoted is about 75,000 jobs. I can take specific examples where women empowerment is also taking place based on CPEC projects. If we look at Gwadar, for example, there are foundations where women are focusing on how to improve the inclusion of women in the workforce. This is something that was unfathomable. Schools are being constructed by the thousands. People are being employed. People are now, they have opportunities of education, training, and jobs where they did not have before. But that said, I think I also want to focus on the fact that currently CPEC is in phase 1. These are great projects that have the capacity and potential to improve Pakistan's economy. So the utilization of these projects is what Pakistan needs to focus on and is what Pakistan is focusing on. Phase 2 of the Gwadar Special Economic Zone was launched by Prime Minister just a few days ago. And these are examples of how Pakistan now, with partnerships with Chinese investors, can promote the allocation of industries in the country. Yeah. And this is what's going to lead to the bulk of the job creation. So hard work is needed, and it is currently the focus.
It's very interesting. After the Belt and Road Initiative has been unfolding around the world for a couple of years now, some Western countries and governments are thinking of how to also, put forward a similar initiative. We have heard the Build Back Better World, which is, let's say, an advanced economies version of the Belt and Road Initiative. Professor Su, how do you look at the prospects of that initiative?
Well, we know that so-called B3W.
Yes.
That is, there's the Build Back Better for the World, initiated by the American President Biden. Actually, from my points, I would say that if this initiative is good for their, world development, in particular development, developing world and developed world and interaction with each other, and developing country gets assistance from developed world, that would be good for the developing country, like Pakistan. If United States would like to give assistance to Pakistan to make the Pakistan better, to make the developing country better, that's okay. But of course, I would say that from my points, in my observation, this so-called B3W is kind of the American-centric. That means America would like to absorb the world natural resources and assistance from the world to make the American better. And on the other hand, America would like to unite the so-called Western coalition together to exclude some countries and even confront with some other country like China to make their group politics. So it's not very good news to the outside of the world, in particular to our developing world. So I would say that from China's side, if this so-called B3W getting some kind of assistance to Pakistan, so that create the good foundation even better for the further cooperation between China and Pakistan. That'd be good.
Yeah.
But so far, I'm not very much optimistic because the United States has their own limited assistance toward Pakistan.
Okay.
So by this way, the reason why Pakistan have much more wishes towards China rather than United States.
Yeah, I think as we are wrapping up, we don't have too much time left, but I think it is, I want to use this opportunity to air the last question I was able to ask to His Excellency Prime Minister Han. He reiterated basically his point about countries shouldn't be forced to take sides. Let's take a listen to this.
I find this deeply worrying for the world. I find this rivalry for no rhyme or reason. I find this worrying because then, just like in the Cold War, the world was divided between the Soviet camp and then the American camp. And so it created a lot of problems for countries who, you know, they had to choose sides, either one side or the other. And then, you know, for a short while, there was this, the whole worry was this war on terror, and the whole world was somehow involved in fighting terrorism. And now we see this emerging rivalry between China and the Western countries led by the US. Again, it's worrying. And people in Pakistan, we ask ourselves the question, why do we have to choose sides? We have a very deep relationship with China. And if someone asks us to choose sides, we find that China is our friend for 70 years through highs and lows. They've stood with us. So people in Pakistan have this great faith and trust in our friendship with people in China. So why should we be asked to take sides now? Why can't we have a relationship with everyone? And this is the feeling right now, because I think this what past tells us, this world divided into camps, we find that this is detrimental to the world.
Yes, my final question to Zoon, your comments to Mr. Khan's remarks just now, and what do you think can be done?
Well, firstly, Liu Xin, I think it's, let's start with what's happening in Afghanistan today. The way the United States is leaving, we thought about not repeating the mistakes of the past, and we see that happening all over again. On the other hand, there is China, which is affected by prosperity, peace, and the betterment of Pakistan, Afghanistan, all countries in the region. So just like Imran Khan mentioned, we have a history of supporting each other through highs and lows. Of course, it takes immense effort on both sides to build such a relationship, but the basic reality is also that we prosper and perish together. We share borders, we share the region at large, and because of that, we fight for each other, we support each other. And in that sense, unfortunately, the United States doesn't have the same emotion, the same care for Pakistan the way China does. This is the ground reality. So just as Imran Khan said, countries should not be pushed to choose. This is not the way things are meant to be. They should be able to pursue their own interests. And of course, we support cooperation with the United States and we support cooperation with China. But if any country asks us to pick sides, it obviously it will put us in a difficult situation, but the choice is quite clear. We go ahead with the region. So I think Imran Khan definitely, not only, I think he's vocalizing a sentiment that Pakistanis share and many countries in the region share. And I hope, lastly, I would like to say that the United States needs to realize that this is not the time for monopolizing and weaponizing. The world has changed. Asia is rising and we are supporting each other.
Many thanks to my guests, Zoon Ahmed Khan, a Pakistani researcher from Tsinghua University, and Professor Su Hao from the China Foreign Affairs University. And that's it for this special edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin. As always, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter using the handle Liu Xin in Beijing. Thanks for watching. You've got The Point.